Story 1: The Last Station. This happened late last fall. I'd gone to a city I'd never even seen before for a job interview. The company was a small startup on the outskirts of town. They'd booked my train ticket and a single night at a hostel. The interview was scheduled for 4 in the afternoon, and I planned to catch the last train home that same night. So I had my small suitcase with me the whole time. The interview didn't go well. The manager was cold, and it was pretty obvious they already had someone else in mind. I walked out of the building around 6, tired, frustrated, and decided to head straight to the station. The city felt deserted. It was late autumn, so night came fast. The streets were damp, dead leaves piled along the curbs. The train station was on the edge of town, and I had to take a local bus to get there. At the bus stop, I realized I wasn't alone. A middle-aged man in a long gray coat was sitting on the bench, flipping through a newspaper. But the newspaper was upside down, completely upside down, and he was staring at it like he was reading every word. I told myself maybe it was intentional, some kind of mental exercise, or maybe he just hadn't noticed. Still, something about it made the back of my neck prickle. I kept my eyes on my phone and ignored him. My suitcase was right beside my foot, pressed against the bench. When the bus came, I got on and sat near the back. The man got on too. The whole ride, he just held that upside-down paper in front of his face and didn't move. The train station was almost empty, an old building with high ceilings and fluorescent lights that buzzed faintly. The departure board said my train was delayed by an hour, technical issues on the line. The only warm place in the station was a tiny cafe that was already closing up. I ordered a coffee. While I was waiting, I felt a sudden need to use the bathroom. I left my suitcase by the counter and said to the girl working there, "Would you mind watching this for just a second?" She nodded. I was gone less than 2 minutes. When I came back, my suitcase was right where I'd left it. I grabbed my coffee and sat down. The man from the bus stop was now sitting across the hall. Same upside-down newspaper. But this time, I could feel him watching me over the top of it. That's when the pattern clicked. Upside-down newspaper, upside-down glance. Everything about him felt inverted. I told myself I was being paranoid, bad interview, exhaustion, a city I didn't know. It made sense to feel a little on edge. The loudspeaker announced the train was delayed another 45 minutes. The cafe shut down completely and the girl left. Now it was just me and the man, alone on opposite sides of the hall. Then he stood up. He started walking toward me, slowly. My heart hammered. He passed right by me without a word, went to the vending machine, bought a chocolate bar, and returned to his seat. I almost laughed at myself. The guy was just a normal passenger. But then I watched him unwrap the chocolate bar, or rather not unwrap it. He bit straight into the wrapper, paper and all, chewing slowly, casually, like it was the most normal thing in the world. Upside down again. I decided I wasn't going to sit there any longer. I grabbed my suitcase and headed for the platform, even though the train wasn't due for another half hour. The platform was completely empty. The air was cold and sharp, the lights weak, and a low fog was rolling in from the tracks. A few minutes later, I heard footsteps. The man was climbing the stairs to the platform. Slow, deliberate. When he reached the top, he stopped at the far end. Not close, not far. right at the edge of my vision. I stared at my phone, thumb hovering over the emergency call button, ready to dial if I had to. The train arrived 10 minutes late. As soon as the doors opened, I climbed into a carriage with a handful of other passengers and sat behind an elderly couple who were talking quietly. The man didn't get on my carriage. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. But as the train started moving, I looked out the window. He was still on the platform, standing under the dim light, and he waved at me with his left hand. I got home well past midnight. I was so exhausted I barely remember collapsing into bed. The next morning, I opened my suitcase to unpack and found something that still makes my skin crawl. At the bottom, underneath all my clothes, was a crumpled newspaper, the same one the man had been holding at the bus stop. It was folded upside down, like everything else he touched. I opened it. Every article, every headline, every single word was printed backward, as if the entire paper was meant to be read in a mirror. Only one sentence was written the right way. In the corner, in blue pen, "You'll reach the last stop eventually." Story 2. Room number 4. 2 years ago, I took a work trip to a small town up north. The company hadn't booked a hotel, and my budget was tight, so I found an old hostel in the center of town. It was a 3-story brick building with a wooden staircase that creaked on every step. The man at the front desk was older, with thick glasses and a heavy ledger he barely looked up from. He asked my name, handed me a key, and said, "Room 4, 2nd floor, end of the hall." The hallway was narrow, lined with faded yellow wallpaper. Half the lights were out, so the first part was dimly lit, and the rest disappeared into blackness. Room 4 was at the very end. The room itself was small and clean. A bed, an old wardrobe, a desk by the window, and a large mirror hanging on the wall directly across from the bed. The mirror wasn't unusual, but its frame was covered in intricate hand-carved patterns, flowers and vines twisted together. Around 10 that night, I went out to grab dinner. Walking down the hallway, I passed a door that was slightly ajar. From inside, I could hear someone crying, a woman, sobbing softly. I thought about knocking, asking if she was okay, but just then another guest came up the stairs and distracted me. I ate at a small restaurant nearby and came back. The hallway was silent now, no crying. I went into my room, locked the door, and got ready for bed. But I couldn't sleep. I was lying on my back, staring at the ceiling, when I noticed something strange in the mirror. From where I was, the mirror reflected the room, but the light in it seemed wrong, like there was a source I hadn't turned on. I got up and walked closer. That's when I saw something written on the glass. Thin, faint lines, almost invisible. I leaned in and squinted until I could make out the words, "Don't look behind you." For a second, I forgot to breathe. I spun around. Nothing. Just the closed door, the wardrobe, the dark window. I told myself it was old, a prank left by some previous guest. I didn't want to let the fear take root. I turned off the light and forced myself back to bed, but it took hours to fall asleep. The whole time in the dark, I had this creeping feeling that something in the mirror was moving. Not something I could see, something I could only sense. When I woke up the next morning, the mirror was clean, no trace of writing. I told myself it must have been a hallucination, a trick of the light. I packed my bag, took one last look at my own tired reflection, and went downstairs to return the key. The old man was still behind the desk. I handed him the key. Room 4. He glanced at his ledger. Hope you slept well. I hesitated. Was anyone else staying on the second floor last night? He adjusted his glasses. No, sir. You were the only guest up there. My pulse ticked up. I could have sworn I heard a woman crying. He looked at me for a long moment. No smile, just, well, this place is very old. The walls are thick. Sounds carry from strange places. I didn't push it. I walked out, got in my car, and started driving. About 10 minutes down the road, I realized I'd left my phone charger in the room. I sighed and turned around. The old man raised his eyebrows when I walked back in. I said, "Left my charger. Can I get the key again?" He handed it over. I climbed the stairs again. The hallway was still half dark. I unlocked room 4. My charger was on the desk, but what made me freeze was the mirror. A white cloth had been draped over it, covering the entire surface. I was absolutely certain that when I left the room 10 minutes earlier, there had been no cloth on that mirror. I'd never even seen a cloth like that in the room. I went back down. Did anyone go into my room after I left? The mirror is covered. The old man took off his glasses. Covered? Sir, it's been that way since last night. I didn't say another word. I got back in my car and drove. The whole way home, my mind replayed the writing, the crying, the white cloth, the old man's words. I was almost home when I picked up my phone to text my wife. That's when I noticed something. In my voice memos, there was a file I didn't recognize, 4 minutes and 3 seconds long, recorded at 2:37 a.m., the exact time I'd woken up and couldn't fall back asleep. I hadn't recorded that file. With shaking hands, I hit play. For 4 full minutes, it was my own voice, a soft, steady murmur like someone talking in their sleep, the same words over and over. Room number 4. Room number 4. Room number 4. Then, in the middle of the recording, my voice stopped. A few seconds of silence. When it came back, it was quieter, closer to the mic. Almost a whisper. Just one sentence. Behind you. Then silence again. Then once more. Room number 4. Room number 4.